Men chase, boys beg, but the moment a man goes silent, something inside her breaks. Brother, let me tell you a truth. No one speaks out loud. A woman isn't shaken when you argue, plead, or explain. She's shaken when you vanish without a trace. When the story she thought she controlled suddenly loses its narrator. It happens quietly, like a scene from a psychological thriller. 1 second she believes she holds the upper hand. The next, the room around her feels colder, unfamiliar. Because deep beneath her confidence lies a fear she will never admit. The fear that your silence means she misjudged your value, and that you finally saw through the illusion. And here's where the mind truly fractures. She doesn't just wonder where you went. She wonders why her power didn't follow you. Tonight, we're going to peel back the layers she hopes you never understand. We're going to expose the hidden psychological stages she collapses into when you walk away. The shock, the performance, the self-doubt, the jealousy, the unraveling. And why your silence, not your words, is what flips her world upside down. If you've ever asked yourself, what really happens in her mind when I stop chasing? This video will give you the answers men were never supposed to know. Start this journey now. Like this video so YouTube knows men like you still walk this earth. Subscribe to Stoic Station for daily wisdom in the art of masculine discipline. And tell me this in the comments. Drop a 1 if you once lived inside an illusion. Drop a 2 if you've already seen the truth behind the mask. Because what happens next, what happens in the silence, is where the real story begins. 1. The shockwave. Her control collapses instantly. Brother, the moment you walk away, you trigger an emotional earthquake she never saw coming. That first blast of silence hits her harder than any argument ever could, because it interrupts the one thing her mind depended on, your predictability. Most men think a woman won't notice their absence, that she'll simply move on, untouched. But silence has a gravity of its own. It pulls at the parts of her she's tried to hide from, the parts she thought she'd never have to confront. For so long, she built her confidence on the belief that she knew you. She could predict your reactions, your apologies, your attempts to fix the chaos she created. Her entire sense of control rested on the familiar pattern of you stepping forward whenever she stepped back. But when you break that pattern, when your footsteps fade instead of chase, her brain interprets that shift as a threat. It's not dramatic on the outside, but inside, her nervous system lights up like an alarm. The amygdala activates, the mind spins, and her first instinct is denial. She whispers to herself, "He'll be back. They always come back." But the longer your silence holds, the more that whisper trembles. And that's when the fracture begins. She doesn't just lose control of you, she loses control of the story she's been telling herself. A story where she always held the upper hand. A story where you were the stable one and she was the prize. Your withdrawal is not punishment, it's alignment. It's the moment you stop feeding a system that drained you. It's the moment you choose your dignity over the emotional loop she kept you trapped in. And because she never expected you to walk away with clarity instead of anger, the shock runs even deeper. Her mind begins unraveling at the edges, not because you hurt her, but because you disrupted the psychological rhythm she relied on to feel certain. The game only worked as long as you played your part. The silence you choose now doesn't just break her control, it breaks the illusion that she ever had it. And while she's spiraling through confusion, panic, and disbelief, you're quietly rebuilding. You're stepping out of the emotional fog she created and stepping back into yourself. Walking away doesn't end the story, brother, it resets it. It's the point where everything she thought she understood collapses, and everything you were meant to become begins to rise. And the most powerful part? This is only the first wave. The deeper psychological unraveling hasn't even started yet. 2. The performance phase. She pretends she's untouched. When you disappear, brother, she performs strength, not because she has it, but because she's losing it. That first wave of silence you created shakes something inside her, and instead of facing it, she does what so many people do when fear creeps in. She puts on a show. The problem is that men often mistake that performance for proof she has moved on. They see her smiling in photos, laughing louder than usual, posting moments of joy, and they tell themselves, maybe she really doesn't care. But what they're seeing isn't healing, it's denial dressed up as confidence. In reality, she's performing for an audience of one, you. Every curated story, every polished image, every "I'm fine" moment is crafted with the hope that it reaches your eyes. She wants you to believe she's untouched by your absence, that she's thriving while you've vanished from her world. But behind the surface, behind the filters and captions, denial is working overtime just to keep her ego from collapsing. She doesn't want to feel weak. She doesn't want to face the truth that your silence has weight. And she certainly doesn't want you to realize how much she's thinking about you. So she shows up everywhere except where she actually feels. She laughs louder. She posts more. She stays in motion because stillness is dangerous for her right now. Stillness forces her to face the emptiness you left behind. And that emptiness is something she is not ready to meet. She's not running toward joy, she's running away from the echo of your absence. And the longer she runs, the heavier her mask becomes. This is where many men fall into the trap. They see the performance and feel compelled to break their silence, to correct her image, to reinsert themselves into the narrative she's trying to paint. But don't break your silence to chase illusions. Stoics don't move for noise, and they definitely don't move for performances. Your silence is the truth beneath her theater. It's the one thing she can't control, can't predict, and can't manipulate. It reminds her that life is no longer unfolding on her terms. Every day you remain still, her mask tightens. Every day you don't react, the performance becomes harder to maintain. And sooner or later, the cracks start to show, because pretending you're unbothered is easy, until silence becomes undeniable. And when the curtain finally falls, brother, she won't be able to hide what comes next. The real unraveling is just beginning. 3. The mirror panic. Self-doubt eats her confidence. Every woman looks in the mirror, but she's never feared it until you walked away. That reflective surface she once trusted begins to turn on her the moment your silence stretches into something real. Your absence forces her to confront what she never imagined she'd face. Rejection. And not the loud kind, not the dramatic kind. No, the quiet kind. The kind that doesn't announce itself, doesn't give explanations, and doesn't offer a final conversation. The kind of rejection that leaves her alone with her own thoughts, and those thoughts become the enemy she never prepared to fight. Women aren't conditioned to handle rejection the way men are. Men grow up knowing what it feels like to be overlooked, ignored, or dismissed. But for her, even small doubts feel catastrophic. A single unanswered message can shake her. A shift in tone can unsettle her. But your silence, your disappearance, that isn't a small doubt. That is a mirror being held up to her identity, and she doesn't like what she sees. The longer your silence lasts, the louder the questions become. Am I losing my beauty, my value? Did he find someone better? These are questions she thought only men had to ask. Now they echo through her mind with a force she can't suppress. What used to flatter her now cuts her. Compliments from others feel empty. Attention she used to enjoy now feels like noise. What used to reassure her, her appearance, her charm, her confidence, now shakes her because none of it brings you back. Your absence becomes a blade, slicing through every illusion she built about her worth, her desirability, and her power over you. And the deeper that blade goes, the more she spirals into a place she never expected to be, a place where she questions herself instead of you. But while her mind unravels, yours is rebuilding. Your focus is inward, your health, your discipline, your strength. You're not checking her stories, not decoding her posts, not chasing closure. You're mastering your own life while she's losing her grip on hers. And that contrast is what breaks her even more. Because she starts noticing something she didn't expect. She's stalled while you're rising. She's doubting while you're sharpening. She's sinking while you're rebuilding. Self-doubt is the second crack, brother. And once it appears, it never stops spreading. Because silence doesn't just remove you from her world, it forces her to meet the version of herself she's been avoiding for years. And that version is exactly what pushes her into the next stage, the one where uncertainty transforms into something far more explosive. 4. The ZEIGARNIK spiral. Unfinished stories haunt her mind. Humans are haunted by what's unfinished, and your silence leaves a story with no ending. That's the hook that catches her deeper than anything you could have said, because she expected a final message, a last attempt, one more chase to reassure her that she still held power over how the chapter closed. But without that closing act, without that familiar cycle, her mind cannot close the file. It keeps spinning, replaying, rewriting, trying desperately to stitch together an ending that no longer belongs to her. This is the ZEIGARNIK effect at work, the psychological pull toward unresolved narratives. The brain fixates more on what's incomplete than what's finished, and when you walked away without ceremony, without drama, without offering her the comfort of a predictable goodbye, you created the exact type of unfinished emotional loop her mind cannot escape from. It lingers. It scratches at her thoughts. It refuses to settle. Every day she checks her phone, half hoping, half dreading a notification with your name. Every night she rewrites the story in her mind, what she should have said, what you might be thinking, how things might play out if she reached out first. The unresolved tension gnaws at her, not because she misses the relationship, but because she no longer controls the ending. And control was the illusion she depended on more than anything else. Your silence becomes a mirror she doesn't want to look into. It forces her to sit with the discomfort of not knowing, not being chosen, not being enough to pull you back the way she once did. And while she wrestles with questions that have no answers, you continue forward with clarity. You don't owe her explanations. In truth, the silence is the explanation. It communicates the one message she never expected to hear. You're no longer living inside her narrative. Unfinished business becomes her obsession and your liberation, because the door you didn't close becomes the door she can't stop staring at. She keeps waiting for it to swing open, for the familiar energy to return, for the story to continue on her terms. But that door isn't stuck, brother. You simply walked through it and didn't look back. And the very moment she realizes you're not coming back for closure is the moment the spiral pulls her deeper into the next stage of unraveling, where her emotions stop whispering and start screaming for answers she'll never receive. 5. The jealousy trigger. She feels the shift of your status. Nothing breaks her confidence faster than seeing you rise without her. That alone shatters the narrative she built to protect her ego. The idea that your world would dim once she stepped out of it. She thought walking away would make you crumble, question yourself, or chase harder. She never imagined it would elevate you. She never expected silence to turn into discipline, discipline to turn into momentum, and momentum to turn you into a man she barely recognizes anymore. But when a man rebuilds himself, the world sees it, and so does she. Your transformation doesn't need a spotlight. The people around you notice before you ever speak a word. They see the difference in your posture, the sharpness in your presence, the purpose in the way you move, and like clockwork, she sees it too. Because whether she admits it or not, she's still watching quietly, closely, consistently. Your improvements, your physique, your discipline, your purpose, create a status shift in her mind. She once believed she held the higher ground, that you needed her more than she needed you. But when a man walks away and rises instead of falls, that internal ranking collapses. The old version of you she dismissed no longer exists. In his place stands someone she cannot categorize, control, or replace. And jealousy forms, not from love, but from fear. Fear that another woman will experience the version of you she never appreciated. Fear that someone else will feel the strength she overlooked. Fear that your growth is building a future where she no longer belongs. Jealousy is a simple emotion on the surface, but beneath it is a quiet panic, the realization that she misjudged your potential and misunderstood your value. But brother, you don't need to flaunt anything. Legendary men don't announce their transformation, they embody it. Stoic power is not loud, it radiates. It speaks through action, consistency, calm. The right people feel it, the wrong people fear it. And she feels both. Your growth triggers her decline because it exposes the truth she tried to avoid. You were never the weak one. You were simply the one who loved deeply, and nothing is more attractive or more painful than watching the man she underestimated become the man she can no longer reach. And what happens next in her mind? That's where the unraveling grows even deeper, because the jealousy she feels now is only the beginning. 6. The endowment crash. She realizes what she lost too late. People only value what they lose, and she never valued you until you were gone. That's the quiet truth that starts tightening around her once your absence becomes real. She moved through the relationship believing you'd always be available, always reachable, always hers, to call back with a single breadcrumb of affection. She assumed your commitment was permanent, your patience was endless, and your presence was guaranteed. But that belief was never rooted in love. It was rooted in ownership. This is the endowment effect in motion. Humans overvalue what they believe they own, even if they never earned it. She thought you were hers simply because you had always been there. She didn't measure your worth while she had you. She assumed it would stay constant no matter how she treated you. But when you walked away, truly walked away, the effect reversed instantly. The very thing she undervalued became the thing she can't stop thinking about. The man she once controlled becomes the man she cannot access. And the crash begins. She scrolls through your photos, looking for the pieces of you she didn't appreciate when she had them. She replays the memories she once took for granted. She compares every man who enters her life to the version of you she now misses, and none of them measure up. They lack your calm, your strength, your presence, your discipline. They lack the emotional and masculine grounding she only recognized as valuable once she no longer had access to it. But you've changed, and that's what hits the hardest. She lost the old version of you, but the man you're becoming. That man feels unreachable, and regrets hit harder when the door is already locked. She's not grieving the breakup. She's grieving the reality that she misjudged you, mislabeled you, and misunderstood what you brought into her life. The pedestal she once stood on has crumbled beneath her feet, and in its place rises the truth she avoided for too long. Remain unreachable. A man who respects himself doesn't return to cages he escaped. You don't go back to prove a point or soothe her ego. You keep moving forward because your transformation demands distance. You're not punishing her, you're choosing yourself, and the more you grow, the heavier her realization becomes. Her mind collapses under the weight of what she finally sees. Because losing a strong man is painful, but realizing she caused her own loss is devastating, and that devastation becomes the doorway to the next phase of her unraveling, where she tries to fill the void you left with something or someone who will never measure up. 7. The rebound void. Nothing fills the space you left. She may replace you fast, but she cannot replace what you made her feel. That's the truth buried beneath every sudden smile, every new photo, every forced moment of happiness she tries to present to the world. Rebounds look like healing, but they are nothing more than emotional bandages, thin, temporary, and unable to close a wound that cuts as deeply as losing a man she once believed would never walk away. The new man isn't love. He's a distraction from the silence echoing inside her. She isn't choosing him, she's choosing noise. She isn't drawn to his presence, she's running from your absence. But distractions fade, and when they do, the void returns, deeper than before. Because the rebound doesn't know her soul. He hasn't seen her darkness. He doesn't understand the quiet parts of her heart the way you once did. Most importantly, he doesn't carry the strength, presence, and grounding energy she only realized she cherished after it slipped out of her hands. Rebounds lack depth, they lack tension, they lack respect. Everything about them feels too easy, too predictable, too light. She feels it every time he talks. She feels it every time he tries too hard. She feels it when he puts her on a pedestal she no longer believes she deserves. She hides it behind smiles and late-night posts, but the emptiness grows, that hollow space inside her, once filled with the steadiness of a man who moved with purpose, now echoes louder than ever. But brother, here's the key. You don't compare yourself to him. You don't question whether he's better, happier, or winning. The void is not yours to fill anymore. You walked away from the emotional role she took for granted. What she does with that emptiness now is her responsibility, not your burden. And that is precisely why the void hurts her more than she expected, because it exposes what she overlooked, not what you lacked. She finally understands. The space you left was shaped exactly like you. The strength you carried, the presence you brought, the stability you embodied, those things aren't interchangeable. They aren't replaceable. They aren't replicable through a quick rebound or a temporary distraction. And nothing temporary can take your place. And when that realization settles in, that the man she replaced you with can't calm her spirit, can't challenge her mind, can't match the energy you carried, you become more than a memory, you become the standard she can't escape. And that standard is what pushes her into the final stage of unraveling, where regret becomes a weight she can no longer outrun. 8. The new you, the man she can't reach anymore. Her mind breaks the moment she realizes the truth. You didn't walk away to punish her, you walked away to rebuild yourself. That's the moment everything inside her shifts, because for the first time she understands your silence wasn't revenge, it wasn't manipulation, it wasn't a tactic, it was a turning point. And nothing terrifies someone who depended on your softness more than seeing you withdraw into your strength. Men destroy themselves chasing closure. Stoic men rebuild themselves in silence. You didn't disappear, you transformed. While she expected you to wait in the shadows of the past, you were chiseling yourself into a different man, more grounded, more intentional, more self-respecting. And transformation creates distance, the kind she cannot cross, no matter how hard she tries, because distance born from growth isn't measured in miles, it's measured in evolution. She returns with apologies, emotions, and memories, hoping the past still has a hold on you. But you don't feel the same. Not because you're cold, not because you're bitter, but because you grew beyond the version of yourself she once knew. You're not moved by the same words. You're not softened by the same patterns. You're not tied to the same emotional loops. You stepped out of the cycle, and in doing so, you stepped out of her reach. You choose peace over patterns, purpose over approval, self-respect over old temptations. You learned that a man doesn't need closure to rise. He needs direction. He needs discipline. He needs a mission that extends beyond the emotional chaos he once tolerated. And the moment you choose those things, you become a different kind of man. A man who isn't swayed by the pull of what once wounded him. You didn't just move on, you evolved. You rebuilt your identity piece by piece, not to prove anything to her, but to honor the man you were always capable of becoming. And once a man truly evolves, he becomes unreachable to the woman who once took him for granted. She may knock, she may cry, she may remember, but she cannot reopen a door you sealed through self-respect, because the new you isn't hiding. He's rising, he's present, he's self-governed. And the farther you move into your purpose, the more she realizes that the man she once treated as replaceable has become the man she can never reach again. And that, brother, is the moment the story stops being about her and finally becomes about you. Brother, if anything in this message stirred something you've been trying to silence, then take a breath and hear this clearly. A man's life doesn't break when a woman walks away. It breaks when he abandons his own strength trying to be chosen, and it rebuilds the moment he decides he will never betray himself again. You didn't walk away to win her back. You didn't disappear as a strategy. You walked away because a deeper part of you finally opened its eyes and refused to keep living small. And now, you're rebuilding the man you were always meant to become, grounded, focused, sovereign. If you felt that shift tonight, like this video, so YouTube knows men like you still walk this earth. Subscribe to Stoic Station, where men rise through discipline, silence, and inner clarity. And comment below, I rise for myself, not for me, but as a declaration to your future, a promise that your strength is no longer negotiable. And brother ... if you want deeper guidance, longer lessons, and a community of men walking this same path toward purpose, power, and sovereignty, check the links below and join the Stoic Station Brotherhood. Walk with intention, stand with self-respect, and never stay where your spirit is shrinking. This is your path now, your freedom, your rebirth. Start it today.